Do you have lots of big fabric prints you want to show off?
Then our new book is perfect for you. Hi, it's Donna Robertson.
And Fran Morgan with Fabric Café.
As quilters, the fabrics that we fall in love with the most are the focus fabrics. And we buy those and we end up with a stash full of them.
So we wrote a book just for this with 8 brand new patterns that work with 2 big prints. It's called Double Focus 3-Yard Quilts, and it's perfect for using up that stash.
So let's check out the first one. Now this pattern is called Daisies and Diamonds, and we had so much fun creating this book, coming up with ways that we could use, even from our own stash, 2 focus fabrics so that you could really show them off. One point about that is that you have a separation. If you have 2 large, bold prints, then you'll want some separation so that they can kind of stand alone. And this one is perfect. Super easy. We're going to talk about how we put this one together. You know, one of my favorite things to do are pieces and parts, so where we show you how to make the blocks. Now, the first block I want to point out is this one is super, super easy. It's just half square triangles that are put together. There are 4 of them. But let's talk about how to make this daisy because it is so simple. Now, first of all, I want to point out that every one of our patterns is going to give you great illustrations on how to put the blocks together. So you'll want to always look at those to begin with. And it just takes you step by step how to do what we're about to show you now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to simply cut a square of the focal fabric. And then we're going to do the stitch and flip where you just sew a square, you sew a line across, and then you flip it and you trim it off, you flip it, and then you press it. And you do that on 2 corners. It's sort of like a half snowball.
Yes.
So super, super simple.
Super easy.
Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew a little strip on this. Let's put this one on the quilt, just like this. And then we're going to sew a strip of fabric on the other side.
So easy.
I know, it is just
see.
super, super simple, isn't it? And you're going to put that together just like this. And you're going to make double that. So you have one here. You'll also have one here. So that's just super simple. So you just make those over and over, that little zone you can get into. And then you make a sashing strip that's going to go right here in the middle.
Oh.
And this will create that center of the flower.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
really
cute.
like that too. Okay, let's go ahead and pick these up. As I've said so many times, I love batiks.
Yes.
And when I first started designing, I was afraid of batiks because I could not figure out how in the world you could get all of these colors to work together. But then once you start using batiks, you begin to see that they are just beautiful when you kind of mix and match them because the way they're created, as you know, they're handmade, hand-dyed fabric. It's just easy to put them together.
And you know, I have to say, batiks are bold, and this is a big print batik. The patterns in Double Focus 3-Yard Quilts are all made for fabrics for this reason. They're designed specifically to use those bigger prints. So if you're afraid of batiks, this is great because we've made it so that the colors are separated. It's going to look great.
That's right. You could even go with wildly different colors if you
yes.
wanted to, and it would be very interesting.
Agreed.
Yeah. So this one is a classic double focus where we've separated those colors, like Fran said, so that you can mix and match and put different kinds of focus fabrics together. This is our number 1, and it is going to be in our daisy petals.
So cute.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Our number 2 creates that backdrop so that the design really shows. It's sort of like the canvas of your quilt.
Yes, and it's a beautiful warm color.
It is, and it picks up from the design here, that lighter shade. So it works really well, and it too is a batik. Then our number 3 fabric is the same as we say, double focus, and sometimes it's fun whenever you want to pick out 2 double focus from the same line of fabric, and that's what we have here. It's going to go in the square here. This, as I said, is made with 4 half square triangles that are put together super simple.
It's so pretty, and it pops so well. You've got 2 big prints, 2 different colorways, and it just looks fantastic.
And I can remember my early days of sewing, I would fall in love with a focus fabric, and I would have to buy it even if I didn't know what to do with it, because that's what we kind of fall in. We kind of fall in love with the showy stuff. Okay, so this is the kit information, is the party streamers. It's Daisies and Diamonds from the Double Focus book.
Now this pattern is called Faceted, and we named it Faceted because we felt like this block kind of looked like a cut diamond, which is pretty cool. Now this quilt is going to be super, super fast. We have a block here that just has one snowball cornered, and this is one of our focus fabrics. And then our second focus fabric is in the alternate block, made exactly the same way with just a snowball corner here with that stitch and flip. Then we have sashed this. So not only are you going to be able to use two great focus fabric, it's going to go really fast. There are no seams to match. So this is a perfect one if you're looking for a quilt in a hurry to use up that great focus fabric. There are so many great things about this pattern. First, I think you can put any fabric in this pattern and it's going to look amazing. And whenever I say any, I mean it could be a big print, it could be a little print, it could be a directional print, and it's going to work in this pattern. Also, there are no seams to match. So what we have here is our block that is stitch and flip, making like a quarter snowball. Then we have sashed it so you don't have to worry about those seams matching. And I love that.
It sure makes the quilts go faster.
It is going to go so fast. Yeah. Okay, now one of the things that we've done, because we know you've asked for it and you wanted a little bit more information, this little text right here at the beginning of the pattern is going to tell you whether or not it can use a directional fabric, or in this case, there's no seams to match. So be sure to check out these little paragraphs here right under the title so that you know, oh, it's a one blocker, oh, there's no seams, or oh, I can use I can use a directional fabric. So it's going to be really helpful, I think.
I think it will too,
when choosing patterns. So for our number one fabric, our first focus, because these are double focus, our first focus is this gorgeous, very large floral. And I love the colors in this.
I do too.
I mean, these are just,
you know, I love a garden that has all of those flowers, the variety of flowers. And I think sometimes when we're from, being from the South, we don't get all of those beautiful coordinated fabrics because so many things need to be growing in the shade. So we just grow it on our quilts.
That's so true. So this very large, gorgeous focus fabric here is in our block here. And then in our alternate block, we have another focus, but this is in every other block, as you can see here, and it works perfectly. So for our number two, because this is very important how we designed these, we've used a very warm, wonderful off-white here that separates our blocks. And it just gives the frame for our beautiful focus, I would say.
And you know what's really fun about this, when you have the double focus, you still use the same 3-yard trick of saying focus, light, dark, even though you've got two focus fabrics.
Yep.
So you pick whichever one you want in the number one, and then you compare the remaining two, and you say this is light and that's dark with these two.
Thank you. Perfect. And it's going to work every time. I like that.
Well, well, we're always saying focus fabric. Now we're saying focus, and two.
We have two focus. All right. So for our third fabric, gorgeous, same florals. We've thrown some butterflies in there just to give it a little extra interest. And it is a little bit different scale from our first focus, from our number one fabric, which I think gives it some interest. So you've got a bigger fabric here and a little bit looser, airier fabric here. And then, of course, separated by our number two. So pretty.
And that's a good trick, what you just said about the difference in the size of the print. Now, you can use the same size prints, but that's just another way that you can work with your double focus so that you can get more movement in a quilt.
Yeah, it just adds a little extra interest and spice, and I like that. All right, let's get you the kit information on this. It is called Cozy Bouquet, and this is our faceted pattern from Double Focus 3-yard quilts.
Now, if you've watched our videos for any time at all, you know I love kitties. And this pattern is called Fur Babies. You know, I have a couple of special things in my life, of which are my kitties and my batiks. I love batiks. Now, this is a double focus. You'll be able to use two beautiful batiks in the kitty and the heart, or if you wanted, it would be adorable in some little tiny flowers or some great big flowers. Whatever your kitty's personalities are, this quilt is going to be perfect for you too. I love my kitties. They were all over the pieces of paper I'm throwing down on the floor. I'm a messy designer. I design something and I go, oh, that didn't work. So the cats thought it was great because they had things to play with. Yeah. Turned out so cute with their energy added into this. Okay, with the fabrics here, we have our number 1 fabric. And once again, it's a batik is a great one to use with the various colors that you can get that double focus. And as long as you have that light color in the background, then, or the contrast there, then it will work every time. Now this is our number 1 fabric, our first focus, and that's going to make all of the kitties. Every one of the kitties is made out of the focus fabric number 1. And then we have this warm white that we've used in the background, and it's the perfect background. There's just a little bit of color to it, and your eye is going to pick that up, but it's not real competing, and I like that for that number 2. The number 3 fabric is the purple color, and I just think it looks so good together. Yes. But we've just continued because it's sort of in the same shade family or the same hue, so we put that white in between. Now this is a simple pattern to make, and if you'll tune in on Thursday, we're going to show you the details of how to make this quilt. Now the kit information is Forget-Me-Nots. It's the Fur Babies pattern from the Double Focus 3-yard quilts.
Now this quilt is called Jumping Jack, and can you guess why I named it that? You know, so this is a really fun one to put together, and as you can see, we have 2 focus fabrics and then our background fabric. And what's really cool about this pattern is this is a 1-block quilt. We have one big square right here, bordered with some little half square triangles and pieces. It's going to go together fast, and doesn't it make a dynamic pattern? So let's put it on the table and check out the fabric. Now we have used some gorgeous blues and aquas to put this together. Our first focus fabric is at our number 1 position, and it is these gorgeous florals. And as you can see, this is a directional fabric, which is very
I didn't
cool.
even notice that. Yeah.
It goes in this block right here. Now we do have them in our half square triangles, but sometimes when you have a directional fabric like this and you have a small half square triangle, it works just fine.
Yeah,
so
it does.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
So I love it. Now, as our number 2, we went a little different direction on this. We've been using a lot of creams and off-whites and everything. We have gone really contrasty and put this gorgeous aqua in here. And that is our number 2, and it is on each block kind of as our separator here.
Well, you know, one of the things you can say about the number 2 fabric, it just needs to be a high contrast with the other fabrics. So even though it's not white or cream, it works perfectly just with a high contrast.
I really liked that together. Now for our number 3 fabric and our second focus, we have used a fabric in a similar colorway to our number 1. It is a smaller print, once again, to kind of add that interest, still with a nice black background and those blues and greens, and that is going to go in our alternate block here. Love this together.
Now, is this quilt designed so they could use 2 directional fabrics if they wanted?
Yes, just keep in mind that we do have our half square triangles, and you can use a directional on that. As long as the fabric is kind of a modeled fabric like this one, I think it'll work fine. You guys know, and we'll remind you, that all of the patterns in the book, and in all of our books, give instructions for making the lap size, which is 1 kit, the twin size, which is 2 kits, and a queen king topper, which is 4 kits. Now we have an example of this quilt made up in a twin size, so I'm so excited to share it with you.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah, let's go check it out. Okay, now we have our jumping jack lap size hanging right here. And as you can see, right beside it, we have our jumping jack twin size right beside that. So you can see the amazing difference that it is. The twin quilt is so much bigger that we can't even get it all in the picture. There's one more row all the way down here at the bottom. Now on our lap size quilt patterns, you know that we give you all the instructions to make your blocks. We've got our borders and binding on this. whenever we give our enlargement instructions, we tell you how many extra blocks to make and how to position them on the quilt on the side and across the bottom. We also tell you a different border size because we want to use all that fabric. So as you can see, this border here is a little wider than this border here, and so is the number 2 border. So be sure and check those instructions to see what the border sizes are, see how many of each block you need to make, and it's going to be so simple. You need 1 kit for the lap, which is 3 yards, and you'll need 2 kits for the twin, which is 6 yards or 2 kits. Now, of course, if you want to enlarge it to a king, you're going to get 4 kits or 12 yards. So super simple. All right, let me get you that kit information. It is called Soothing Meadows. And once again, this is our Jumping Jack quilt pattern from the Double Focus 3-yard quilt book.
So when I named this quilt, I was in a musical kind of mode. I was listening to a lot of different genres of music. And when I would design this and needed a name, I said, this is tempo. And I really like it because you can almost see it dancing on the surface of the quilt. It's a great pattern that uses only the stitch and flip method for this block, so that makes it super easy. And if you have that wonderful directional fabric and you want to know what to do with it, it will work in the number 1 position of this quilt. So let's talk about the fabric. One of the things about this quilt that I really like is the fact that we are continuing to use the stitch and flip method. You know, when you fall in love with something, you want to spend more time with it, and we did that in this book because Fran and I both love the stitch and flip method, so a lot of the quilts are using that.
And it's so simple.
It really is. Now, if you like the stitch and flip method or want to check it out, we have a video giving lots of tips on how to do that, so be sure to check that out as well. Now, this is our number 1 fabric. It's going to go in this block. You could very easily use a directional fabric if you wanted to in the number 1 block. It will also appear on the border. So this has a nice healthy border that's holding it all together. And remember, you can make twins and king queens out of it as well. So this is going to be gorgeous. And we did the same thing again. We used a subtle high contrast for the background for the number 2 fabric. So that's going to be everywhere to set off those 2 blocks to give it that movement and show the design. Now the number 3 fabric, beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
I love purples and blues and greens. And that's going to be in each one of our tempo blocks here, as well as on the border. And it looks absolutely fantastic. They blend really well together, but they're separated with that number 2, so you'll be able to see both of them.
Yes, and once again, you could use 2 different colorways. You could do 2 different fabrics from 2 different collections. And I love that because they are all very intentionally designed for that very thing.
Absolutely.
I love that we did that.
Yes. And you know, a lot of times a line of fabric that you fall in love with might have one large print that you could use in the number 1, and then smaller prints that you could use in the number 2, 3, but still have that double focus look.
Love it.
It is great. Now this kit is called Leaf Twirls. It's the tempo pattern from the Double Focus 3-yard quilt book.
Now this quilt is named Tufted, and the reason why I called it Tufted is because I thought it kind of looked like one of those couches or pillows where you put the button right in the center and it pulls it in and it gives it kind of some dimension. So I think it kind of looks like one of those pieces of furniture or pillows that do that. Now this is really cool because we have our Double Focus side by side here. It is bordered with some fabric, our number 3 fabric, and it makes a great big churn dash. So I think that's super cool. We're going to block this out at the table so you can see exactly how it's made. So we're starting with our block using our number 1 fabric, our focus fabric. And let's start by showing you just the edges of the block so that it kind of, makes sense in your head. I know I need that as well. So here we have our block. So we have a square here that's got a little corner snowballed, and then we have a border with a half square triangle in the middle, or on the corner, middle there, and then another little strip piece on the side. This is the block. You're just making this block, and then you do turn it to kind of get our churn dash look once we join them all together.
Fran is a master of coming up with looks like something very, very complicated, and she simplifies it so well.
That is what I love to do the most. So, all right, let's crop this block down so that you can see it a little bit more. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut your square and snowball the corner. You can see this little black corner here.
And that's another stitch and flip.
It is another stitch and flip. Very simple. Then we're going to add a stripped piece here. The black and pink here would be an added piece that we sew onto here. Very simple. Mm-hmm. Now, the next step is we're going to make another unit. Now, what this unit consists of, and this is our unit on the side here, is the strip piece here, which is exactly like the one we sewed on over there. You can see we've just turned it. And then we've added a half square triangle right on the corner here. Once we make this, we're going to sew it to our big piece here. And ta-da, there's our block.
So
very
simple.
Yeah.
So simple.
All right, now if you want to learn more about this quilt, we're going to be doing a sew along, and we're going to step through every little step along the way so that you can see exactly how it comes together. So if you haven't subscribed and rung that bell, be sure to do that so that you get notification when this goes up.
Absolutely.
So, all right, let's look at this gorgeous fabric. And I'm going to say, you know, we've been talking about how we've separated the fabrics and we leave that white space in between. I kind of broke the rules.
Well, I think 3-yard quilts are made to have rule breaking. It's a jumping off spot when we tell you to use fabrics 1, 2, and 3, focus light, dark, because you can also do it with contrast.
Yes, you can. And that is exactly what we've done here. So our focus fabric is this gorgeous, just the colors are just rich and saturated and to die for, really. And it's these pinks and orange. This will be our focus fabric. You can see that in all of our blocks here. And then our number 2 fabric, we have chosen a fabric that is from the same collection, so it's the same print, but it's in a different colorway. And these are the blues and purples and turquoises, those are my favorite. They contrast so much together, but what's interesting is because it's the same print, it gives you some continuity, which I really love.
I like that too.
So we've got them side by side here. So as long as you're getting contrast with your colors, this is gonna work. And I love the way these big, bold prints give you so much texture and so much color, and it's just so yummy.
It's saturated, and I have to point out how adorable this is whenever you get those colors together, because it's still only 2 colors, but look how you're picking up the green and then you pick up the blue. Isn't that pretty?
It's so cool because it's a big print.
Yeah.
And I just love that. And basically this is a very similar block to this one that we just did. We just put this piece here on the opposite side. It's very easy. So I love that. So this is our number 2. Now for our number 3, we have gone simple. We've put it with a black instead of a white, so you could go either way. So our black is our border here. And when you sew all of this together and they come together, they're creating this big churn dash, which is
fun.
Super cool. And as you pointed out, whenever you bring your half square triangles together, the corners of your blocks, it makes this cool little diamond.
Yes.
And beautiful, beautiful textural black that has some lights, some darks, just gives so much just yumminess to this quilt. I really like this one. Okay, let's get you the kit information on this. It is called a Brilliant Blossoms. It is the tufted pattern from the double focus 3-yard quilts.
You know, the fun part about designing is that you start designing and you'll design something and then it tells you what you should name it. So I was designing this one and I thought that this looked like an emerald cut. Just an emerald cut of a stone. And then lo and behold, Fran, in another part of the world, was designing the one that she calls Faceted. So I named mine Treasured. We never even talked about it, but we both did a jewel of a quilt for you. Cool pattern. It actually has no seams to match up, so it's going to go really fast with that sashing. And each one of the little corners that are cut off are actually stitch and flip. So let's put it on the table and talk about the beautiful fabric. Now for Treasured, we picked out this gorgeous fabric. It's sort of a watercolor look, but I just loved this fabric. It has such a nice, soft, Fran's Miss Bold, and I'm like Miss Soft, and peaceful. But I like bold too. I mean, we like all fabrics.
Yeah.
But this one is gorgeous, and so let's look at it. It has kind of that crackle look in the background, so it kind of almost looks like you've got flowers growing up a trellis that's an old trellis. I can just see that in the garden. Yeah. Gorgeous. So this is our number one. It's going to go here in this section. And it's very subtle, but we've actually done a little stitch and flip so that we can cut those corners off and give a little more interest to this block. And then the number two is our backdrop. It actually separates our double focus here. That works perfectly. And when you're making the block, you're going to make this piece, and then you're going to sew side pieces on here. And then you do the same thing here. Then when you put them together, they just go together so well.
Yeah, and you've done a sashing strip here, Mom. So this sashing strip is a long piece, so these seams here don't match. So this is going to go super fast.
Yeah, it is going to go fast. And I think you're going to love it. Love making it. And you can do it, like Fran keeps saying, any double focus would look gorgeous in this. And you can also use a directional fabric if you'd like.
Even better.
I mean, it just gets better and better. Directional, check. Stitch and flip,
yes.
Check. Sashing that keeps you from having to match up the corners, seams. Check. So it's got everything's checked. Now this is a great kit. It's called Gossamer Gazebo. It's Treasured is the name of the pattern from the Double Focus 3-yard quilt book.
Now this quilt is called Pavilion, and I really loved putting this together. My goal whenever we were designing this is to make sure I had at least one double focus quilt that had no half square triangles, and this one's it. I love the way this came together. It is a one block, but we've rotated the blocks so they kind of do this little dance across the surface of the quilt. Another thing I really like about this is we've got a little corner here on this block, a little corner on this block. They come together and make the coolest little 4-patch, which I love. So let's get this on the table and check it out. I never thought of myself as an orange rust kind of girl, but the more I use them, the more I love them. And these fabrics are gorgeous in this quilt. And once again, we've used a larger print and a smaller print from the same collection, as well as this really cool off-white. We're gonna flip this fabric in just a second so you can see. But first I wanna show you this block because I find this block very, very interesting because whenever the corners come together, it creates a 4-patch. So I have this block here. And as you can see, we have a little square here and a little square here, and then a big square here. Then when we put these together, this creates a really cool 4-patch.
That's so fun.
So it is so much fun. Now we are gonna step this out a little more fully in more detail on our video on Thursday, so be sure to check that out. All right, let's check out this fabric.
All right.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. These really rich reds and oranges are dominant in our number one fabric. It does have just some little touches of greens and blues, even some purple shades that really just make it look like it's been, I don't know.
It's got such dimension.
Yes.
It really has a lot of dimension. It has a lot of shading going on. It even has some golds in there.
So pretty.
Very pretty.
Yes. And it's gonna go in every other block. We've got it here and then in our corner block here, a little on the border, and it just looks amazing.
And you know, it's fun because when you were talking about the little 4-patch, it makes it look like there's more fabrics used, almost a little scrappy look because of the shading in that number one fabric.
It's really fun. Okay, our number two, now this is great. It is, once again, we've gone back to the off-whites, but we have kind of a big scribble pattern on this, and it's a tone-on-tone. So it gives you a lot of texture in the background here, which I really, really like. We got a little on the border as well.
It's a fancy scribble. It looks like it's been done with a calligraphy pen.
It is kind of fancy. It matches this really well.
It does.
All right, our number 3 fabric, which is our second focus, is this gorgeous kind of rusty orange colors again We do have some touches of purples and blues in here just to coordinate with our #1 fabric. And once again, it's a little bit different scale, so it's keeping that interest going in the pattern. So I really, really like this. And you know, another thing I want to mention about this pattern, it's going to be super fast, no half square triangles, no stitch and flips. We are strip piecing and doing squares, and it's going to be done in a moment. And I love how that they kind of offset each other, and they don't look like they're in straight rows, but they are.
That's great.
All right, let's get you the kit information on this. It is called Garden of Dreams, and it is the Pavilion pattern from our Double Focus 3-yard quilt book. Now, all of the fabrics that you've seen today are available in kits on fabriccafe.com, but be sure to check out that fabric tab because they're also available by the yard.
And don't forget to tune in on Thursday to get all of the information on how to make many of these blocks.
And if you would like to see some more of our patterns that work great for double focus fabrics, be sure to watch the video that pops up.
It's Donna Robertson
And Fran Morgan with Fabric Cafe.
Happy quilting!